Welcome back everyone to our tutorial to using color range to make a selection. First of all, we've got a basic selection saved as a channel, and to get that back, if you've clicked away from it or deselected, one of the ways that you can do it to get the selection back is to go under Select, drop down menu, and load the selection. Okay, so if I accidentally, deselected, then I could also, as an option, go back to the channels panel, and if I'm looking at the thumbnail right here of the basic selection that I created, I can choose to hold down the Command key for a Macintosh and Control key for Windows, and you see here how the tool has changed, looking like a kind of a marquee. So holding down that key command, we can click on it. So that's Control or Command, click, and you can see here that I've got my selection back. So that's just an additional way you can get your selection that you have saved back in. Now you want to constantly be saving your work, so every step along the way, alright, we need to make sure we save. Now I saved mine as another version because I've done this before, but you want to save to update it, and that will make it so that your basic selections and the things that you add in your channel will stay intact along the way, and you won't lose your work. The next thing that we want to do when we have this selection is I want to pick a kind of a middle type of color from this range of colors that I have in the flower crown. So whatever picture that you're using, you need to make sure that you're picking something that's the basic color, not all of the shadows or not all of the highlights, but something towards the middle within that particular color. Okay, I've done this before on people's sweaters or shirts, or changing the color of a paint job on a car or whatever. So I don't want to pick the highlights, I don't want to pick just the shadows. So I'm hovering over an area that I think is about the middle of the road. So I want to remember exactly what that is, or where that is. So somewhere here, I'm going to click, and you'll notice that here in the foreground color, I've got that color picked. Okay, so sometimes we miss on it, but not to worry, even if it's the wrong color. Once we get into the color range, we can always change that out. So I want to go in under the Select drop-down menu, and halfway down about, there's one called Color Range, and so we want to choose Color Range. And that brings us up this little panel here for Color Range. Now we want to be able to make a selection that's much more detailed in nature, and so I want to sample the color, use the sampled colors that I have chosen, okay, so far. And what we have to work with, we can use this localized color cluster. That one, it says enabled localized color clusters to make contiguous selections. Well, that's kind of like this crown, and it helps to make it kind of a continuous range there. So if I click on that, you can see here it's kind of changed it to some gray areas overall. I suppose I could slide that up, and then we start getting into a lot more of the crown, but I don't select other areas. Okay, so my range is, do I want a wide range? I want it in the middle, I want it all the way out. That's another slider. I rarely mess with that. Now if I want to add to the selection, then I use this plus eyedropper here. If I want to delete part of the sample or selection, then use the one with the minus sign on it. So you're working back and forth between the different eyedroppers here. Okay, so I can click anywhere in the thumbnail sketch here. It's shown. This is showing what my selection is. Otherwise, we're looking at our image, but I really want to see what it is that I'm building here. Basically, what I want in the crown is as much white as possible, and then everything else is dark. That means that that's my selection. That's the opening or the hole, and the rest will be closed or, in other words, masked out, so that I can change just everything in here. So I'm not done yet, and I can again click here in the thumbnail. I can click here in the crown. It's going to add to the selection. So let's go to the plus eyedropper, and I want more of these dark colors in here. And so I'll add to that. You can see it looks a little bit funny, but I'm getting some darker reds in here that I want. And I can add to that right there. Now that's kind of getting into picking up part of the background. Let's turn off the localized. Yeah, that's way too much. Okay, so I'm going to slide this down a bit here. And yeah, I'm seeing a little bit of the face, but I know that I have avoided that area because we're only going to be selecting in this area. You'll see how it only does this general selection, and I don't have the face. It's already masked out. So you may have to play around back and forth with this a little bit. I do want a little bit of where the ear is here, you know, above it, and where the hair is. So it's kind of a choice up to you. Now, I don't have everything in the crown. There's some gray areas here, and we're going to do a little bit of cleanup. And just do the best that you can with what you've got. And it's not going to exactly be perfect at this point, but you do primarily want a lot of white continuous area in what you're trying to select. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and click OK because I'm kind of happy with this. All right. And you'll notice that the selection has kind of jumped to where that crown is again. So it's excluded more of the pixels, and when you achieve your desired results and click OK, well, now I have another stage that I can save. So I'm going to go ahead and go under the Select drop-down menu, and I want to save this selection separately. Okay, so color, range, selection. So I'm saving it in different stages because if I don't like this and want to go backwards, I'm not going back too far. I could use that basic selection to save time. And in graphics, everything is based on, you know, production times being sped up. So we need to be really efficient, and everything needs to be very editable. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and save my work. And then in the next video, we're going to go ahead and try to refine our selection and to make some corrections to it, some of the missing pieces.